Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Ledwell and this is The Inspiration Show. We have a very special show today because we are talking with my very good friend Megan Duma about a project that we've been working on with My Movies, which is actually My Movies for Mums. So hi Megan, how are you?
Great, Natalie. Good to see you, darling.
So Megan and I have been friends for quite a few years now, and she has a very interesting story and an inspiring story which actually helped us to start this project. Megan is a mum, a newish kind of mum, and was using My Movies in her process of falling pregnant and giving birth. And so what came out of that is this My Movies for Mum project that we've been working on. So Megan, why don't we start with your story and how all this came about and your motivation for creating this?
Yeah, sure, of course. Well, I fell pregnant pretty quickly, which I was very lucky to do. I know some moms do struggle with that, with the fertility issue, but my husband and I fell pregnant pretty quickly. And then once I was pregnant, I started to look for all this information about what's next, what's going on with my body, what's going to happen with the birth, like, okay, I'm pregnant, now what? So that's like, you don't really prepare for that as a young woman, and then, in your 20s and your 30s, and all of a sudden it's here, and you're like, well, what? So I started this journey of like, okay, looking for information about how to give birth naturally, just what pregnancy had in store for me. And I just kind of came to a very rude awakening very quickly that everything was negative. It was like the first book I bought was What to Expect When You're Expecting. And I always say they should rename that like Stuff That Can Go Wrong with Your Baby, and you just shouldn't read it at all, because like if you focus on these things that are negative, that can go bad, it just really puts you in a bad mood, for one, but B, you can start attracting those things into your life. So I started the journey of pregnancy like really slapped in the face with all the negativity that surrounded the idea of pregnancy. And that's just pregnancy. Now we talk about giving birth, and there's a whole other, can of worms that gets opened there about what do you think when I say the words giving birth. So kind of being slapped in the face with the negativity around pregnancy and the fear-based ideas and pictures around birth, I kind of started to seek out an alternative to that mainstream fear-based stuff that's out there. And I got into natural childbirth. I was all set up to do a home birth, actually at at your partner Glenn's. I was all ready to do it, and and as part of that, seeking positive things for my pregnancy and for my birth, I had used. I mean, you introduced me to My Movies years ago, but I had used it to attract my partner. At times I had a health goal, I'd use a Mind Movie for that. If I had a business goal, I'd make a Mind Movie for that. So I thought, well, my God, this is the biggest journey I'm ever going to go on. I need a Mind Movie for this. I need a Mind Movie for my birth, right? And so I made one, and that's what kind of had me make the connection between using the power of Mind Movies and creating the birth that I wanted.
Right. So were you able to find any kind of positive information out there about the whole pregnancy process?
Yes. Oh, I mean, there's not as much as there should be. Let me say that.
Okay.
You can go searching for the diamond in the rough. You can go searching for people who have good meditations. There's a couple of books that I read about conscious pregnancy, or the ability of your baby to be conscious even in the womb, and there's a couple of things out there. I mean, I know you've spoken and done some work on that as well. But to be honest, there's not enough. I went through 80% of the materials were negative, and I'd say the mainstream is negative and scary. So I really was clinging on to those diamonds in the rough, and that kind of threw me into the natural childbirth realm, birthing from within, hypnobirthing, and the idea of that your mind can play a big part in creating the birth that you want. And that, for me, that just put the birth and the Mind Movies together. It was just one more tool that I was able to use through my own journey. Although it didn't, I wish I would have put a little more thought into making the Mind Movie I made for my birth.
I know. Well, let's go into that story because you actually, through your personal experience, are going to be helping a whole lot of other women do this in a different way. But tell us about the mind movie that you created and how that manifested in the birth that you ended up having.
Right. So, not being a law of attraction expert like yourself, Nat, I just kind of dummied my way through it, and I thought to myself, well, what are the things that I want? I want a healthy baby. I want my baby to know that the world is a beautiful place and that it's safe to come, and I want him to be calm and strong and confident, and I want him to come through the birth with absolute flying colors. And true to form, my baby came through the birth with absolute flying colors. He was healthy and he was strong and he was awesome through the entire birth. But I left out a huge component, and that was what was happening in my own mind, what was happening in my own body. And so while he came through awesome, it wasn't the same exact story for me.
Right. So let's go into this story a little bit more because I think that there's a big component that I think will actually help a lot of women knowing this going into their creation of their mind movie as well.
Yeah. So okay, here's kind of the big parts that I left out. In my mind movie, I focused on my child, I focused on my baby and his health. I didn't focus on eliminating a lot of the limiting beliefs that I had around birth and how scary it was going to be and what it was going to do to my body and all these things that, it's not just that there are pictures that you hold in the back of your mind from the time that you watch movies. I was watching Look Who's Talking the other night on Netflix, and I love that movie. It's so funny with Bruce Willis as the baby talking, and you picture when she goes into birth, she encounters, or when she goes into labor, she encounters this man who's just cheated on her, and she's in the middle of New York, and there's no taxi around, and her water breaks, and it's terrible, and there's this crazy ride to the hospital, and it's incredibly painful, and oh my God, her screaming. And that movie probably came out, I probably saw that when I was 10 years old or whatever, and those are the pictures that we have in our mind. And I didn't take any time to really go into my subconscious and step by step figure out where I had these crazy scary beliefs and start to eliminate them and take really the time to make sure that they weren't back there, wreaking havoc in what was going to ultimately be my birth. And because I didn't take a few really important steps, they showed up big time at my birth, and it was very, very scary for me. I mean, I'd like to share a little bit more about that, and I do share the entire story if the users, if the people who are watching your show are interested in hearing about it. I share more about it, and there's a link I think that we can give them to hear more. But in short, long story short, I had at the very end of my birth what's called preeclampsia, and I had a very rare form that was called HELP syndrome, and it has a 1 in 10 maternal mortality rate, meaning I had a 1 in 10 chance that I wouldn't make it, and it had a 6 in 10 infant mortality rate, so a 6 in 10 chance that my baby wasn't going to make it. And this all had to do with my body, and it was a sickness that I developed at the end, and it showed up and it wreaked havoc, and it was a crazy, crazy experience for me. But my baby Beau was able to avoid an emergency C-section because his heart rate never faltered from where it should have been. He stayed healthy and calm and strong. All the things that I had in my mind movie, he stayed those things because that's the way he was programmed, although I hadn't programmed myself as well as I should have.
Right. Okay. So I know that we've created this version of Mind Movies for Mums. So tell us a little bit about the product itself and why it's different to regular Mind Movies.
Yeah, okay, so it's totally different. In that, in Mind Movies, the beauty of it is realizing, what you want and getting very clear on your goals. And I mean, we share that in common, right? So we have birthing goals. But what I've done is I've created, instead of a script writing process for your life, I've created a birth plan writing process. And here's the thing, all moms need to have a birth plan. Now, you may crumble it up and throw it out the window, at the first, when you go into labor, and that's okay. But to have that birth plan in place gives you peace of mind that is incredible. That way, when you're in the heat of the moment and you're in labor and things are going crazy and you have doctors running in and out and nurses asking you questions, you've already thought about some of the questions that they're going to ask you, and you have answers to those questions. And I think it's a really important process for any mother to go through. But so what I did with the birth plan writing process for Mind Movies for Moms is I I take you through every single step that you'll have to consider from the time, basically that you're pregnant to the time that your baby is delivered and you're holding him or her in your arms and you guys are having a family cuddle afterwards. And I break it down and I say, okay, let's first think about when you want your baby to be born. Think about their astrological sign. Think about how that, what time of day you'd like your baby to be born. I mean, this is a little thing, but to me it made a difference. I really wanted a baby that was a Sagittarius, and so I was on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn, and I was like, we're going to push this baby out, and I want a Sagittarius because my husband's Sagittarius. It made sense that we'd have a freedom-loving little baby that we could take with us where we go. But then to more important, like really solid things like where you want to give birth. And that's a huge question, and it doesn't have a single answer. Some moms might have an option to have 3 or 4 different hospitals that treat things totally differently within their metropolitan area. Other moms might have a midwife that delivers all the babies in their town. And so I really help the moms go through each of these different scenarios and ask them these questions. And it has the effect of 2 positive things. One, they really are clear about what they want. But 2, that's the time that they can have those little voices and those little scary images, pop up, and they can take care of them. They can start to eliminate those beliefs. Because if they just leave them back there and the chatter is there, then who knows how they'll show up. And if it showed up for me, I had a lot of scary chatter I didn't take care of, and I ended up with a very traumatic 26-hour labor with this crazy disease. So now I'm not saying you make your mind movie and this is all going to go away. What I'm saying is you're going to get clear on what you want, and you're going to go a long way in helping yourself. And that's really all you can do, but you should do it.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about going through this process. I mean, we know just the process of making a mind movie is very liberating in itself, but as you're going through this process, and like Megan was saying, things will come up for you. You go, oh, I kind of want this, but oh, what if this happens? When you notice that and you acknowledge that this is a fear that you have, you go, okay, well, that's my fear, but what is it that I want instead? What is it that I want instead? And then write that as an affirmation in your mind, maybe, so that you're focusing more on that, and so you can see that. But then, of course, you have the whole surrender part, because as we know, and I've had many girlfriends recently who have a birthing plan, that know what they want, and of course, all women these days really are looking for having a natural birth, because we know how important that is. But sometimes the best laid plans, don't go to plan. And I think that when you have something like a mind movie like this, where you've already visioned what you want, but you're doing everything for the highest good of you and your baby, I think that really helps you, like you said before, when you're in the craziness of the situation, to know the answers that you're going to give. When you're asked those questions and when things pop up, it kind of gives you a sense of calm, because you know that everything is happening for the highest good anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one other huge benefit that I got personally out of making a mind movie is during the last month of pregnancy, you're uncomfortable, you're anxious, you don't know what's going to happen. And what I did is I switched one daily habit of mine, and instead of logging onto Facebook or checking my email first thing in the morning, I watched the mind movie that I made for my son Bo. And it literally gave me some peace and serenity. It relieved stress, took away anxiety, and let me connect with this little baby. Well, he wasn't so little anymore. He needed his eviction notice. but it let me connect with my son every single morning. And that was such an incredibly positive way to start my day. And it changed my mindset for the last month of my pregnancy, and really put me in a space where I was so ready to be a mom. I didn't have, I wasn't focused on the negative in the world. You can get so caught up in that these days, What I was able to do was watch my mind movie every morning and it was just cool. I knew he was coming. I knew it was on his own time, and I was ready for him, and it just helped. And that peace of mind between having the birth plan and the making the mind movie is cool. Like, that's like the magic, the cool part, right? It's the easy, you click it, you get it, and you're like, this is awesome. But really, the feeling that you get when you make that change and you start watching your mind movie, mind movie for your upcoming birth, mind movie for your baby, it changes your outlook, and it's a better way to start your day for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful that we're doing this, and grateful for you to be able to build this community where, mums can communicate about this. We all face fears and doubts, but to be able to do that in a way that we're in a safe environment, and where we are proactively, focusing on the positive outcomes, I think is just, it's a very important message. I think it's a very important community to be building, and I'm really grateful for you to step up and do this.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Thanks. I love you too. But down that vein, I wanted to make sure that any moms that wanted it had the pre-made mind movie for birth that I put together. It's just a 2-minute general mind movie. It's a free gift I'd like to give to them just to get them started going down something positive they can hold on to. So for that mom that's out there that's like, really? What to expect when you're expecting sucks this much? Sorry to the people that wrote that book, but it does. Like, something positive, like, here, watch this, and get excited about the fact that you're pregnant, you're doing something amazing, and something good, something positive for your birth. Awesome. So if the people watching this, especially if you know anybody who's pregnant, just send them to mindmovies.com. It's /birth, and they can get their free Mind Movies for Moms right there.
Okay, perfect. Cool. And you can see we've got Megan's email address up here if you want to contact her directly. And if you click on the banners either below or beside this video, you'll also go directly through to that site. So thanks again for joining me, Megan. It's always a pleasure talking to you, honey.
Thanks for having me, Nat. Likewise.
Yeah. Now, guys, please, I encourage you to share this video. Anyone that you know that is thinking of getting pregnant, that is pregnant, that could really benefit from this information, you can share this video by clicking the Facebook and the Twitter share buttons on this page. And also make sure that you leave your email address on here as well, so we can send you the Manifesting with the Masters video e-course. So, guys, until next time, remember to live large, choose courageously, and love without limits. We'll see you soon.